Today, we're going to look at a real basic introduction level project that allows you to create the new NASA worm logo, just like this one, that you can hang on your wall. We're going to use a laser cutter as well as some software, and we're going to work you through each step of that workflow. But don't worry, if you don't have access to a laser cutter, you can do this by hand. That's coming up right now. If this is your first time to my channel, or if you're interested in learning about STEM or makerspace practices during this lockdown, feel free to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon so you don't miss out any of the projects that are coming up. We're going to look at a lot of projects that you can do at home while in lockdown, but we're also going to look at the different technology that you can bring in to create your own makerspace at home. And you know, this time right now, with all of us locked down, is a great time to not only learn new processes, but actually have some fun along the way. We're going to use two different pieces of software, but don't worry, if you don't have access to Photoshop or Lightburn, you can still use this workflow and actually do it manually by hand. But if you have access and are looking to learn the process of using Photoshop and then software like Lightburn to send your design to a laser cutter, this is definitely the first step in that process. So let me jump over to my computer and I'm going to fire up Photoshop and do a quick modification so that we can take the existing NASA worm logo that was used in the 80s, and we're going to now change it up and actually turn it into the new NASA worm logo as seen on the TV show For All Mankind, which is streaming right now on Apple TV. If you haven't seen it and you happen to enjoy the US space program, it's actually a really interesting show. So what I did to prepare was I grabbed some screenshots, and you can see the logo here. This is actually from the first time I saw it on the show. You can see on his helmet the logo there, and if I actually tab down, you can see a much better version of it right here. Let's actually just zoom in a little bit. I want to show you what the differences are. It's quite subtle, but it's actually these little bars that come out of the A. It's a really, really subtle change to the existing logo that NASA used in the late 70s and 80s. But you can see here as well, they've got the logos on the astronauts' jumpsuits. And they actually stand out really well. And I really enjoyed seeing these for the first time, especially since the era that I grew up in, that NASA worm logo was on everything. So I remember the first space shuttle that had the worm logo on it. I'm actually building a large version of the space shuttle. I'm 3D printing it, and it will sport the original NASA logo. Maybe I'll use this one instead, I'm not too sure. Another example of this logo, you can see on the spacesuits right here, on their shoulder logos, and there's another one right here. And I love this one because it actually, again, shows you really clearly where that kind of modification is. Really slight, but genius. And I've got to say that I believe Michael Okuda came up with this logo. Michael Okuda had done a lot of work on Star Trek, a lot of the graphics you saw on the computers, and I mean, this is subtle, but boy, does it have a different feel. So you know what? Let's jump into Photoshop right now. I'm actually going to use the existing NASA worm just to show you what that looks like. I was able to download this off the internet. That's the logo that has been used for so long, and I'm going to actually start with that NASA worm logo, so I'm going to just drop that straight into Photoshop, and there it is. And let's get to it. 90% of the work is already done. We're just going to add that little bar down at these bottom A's. So what I'm going to do, my first step, is to just grab a guide, and if you've never done this before, you just go up to the top here, left click, and just drag down this line. And I'm going to kind of match it right there. I'm going to just quickly zoom in. And I'm happy with that. It looks a little bit out on the A and S, but that's okay because the logo isn't going to be that big. I'm going to grab another one right like that, and I'm going to put this up here. And that gives me the ability to then make sure that I haven't made the lines any bigger than the S, because that matches with what we saw before. My next job is to go up to the rectangle selection tool, but before that I'm going to come down here and I'm actually going to grab another layer. So I want to, whatever modifications I do, I want to be able to isolate and copy them again, because I don't like doing the same work twice. I'm a little lazy that way.
So we'll come up to the rectangle, and I'm going to choose just kind of in there. I'm just going to pull this across. It'll snap a little bit to the selection, which is good. I'm going to eyeball it, and then what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to select this red color by grabbing this little icon right here, which is called the Eyedropper Tool. This is really handy if you want to match. So let's click that, and then I'm going to grab the paint bucket and just drop it in here. And if I actually hit Command D and deselect it, I'm starting to look at something that resembles what it was that we're actually trying to create. And you know what? If I wanted to, and I'm going to do that right now, I'm going to go to the desktop. I'm going to come into a screenshot. I'm going to grab that last one and put it up here just to see what's going on there. You see there's a little gap. I'm now going to see if that little gap actually matches. You know what? It could be a little bit longer, so I'm just going to grab that guy with the selection tool and just move him out. I don't want to move him too far, but I think that looks great. Really quickly now, just to finish it up, I'm going to select another layer. I'm going to grab this guy, copy him, paste him. I see him right there. I'm going to use those guides to line him up, and I'm going to eyeball that difference. And that looks pretty good to me. Don't need the guides anymore, so we'll go up to View, Clear Guide, Canvas Guides, and I now have a pretty good looking approximation of the NASA worm as it was used in For All Good Things. This is super cool. Like I said, it wasn't a hard job whatsoever. My last part of the job is to go and save it. So I'm going to save as. I'm going to actually grab a new folder in here. I'm going to call it Final NASA Worm. I'm going to go in here and call it New NASA Worm. Save it. So that's my file. I'm going to leave these layers as they are. I can always turn, that's an extra layer, so I'm going to get rid of that, but I can always turn off the other layers to see the difference. So that was the original. And if I need to adjust it, looking at it here, I'm pretty happy with it. I could actually just move this one just slightly. I mean, we're talking just a really tiny tweak. And I'm using the back key just a little bit. I'm going to do the same for this. Just 2 on the left hand buttons, just moves it in. I'm really happy. I'm finicky. I'm just going to save that again by Command S. And I'm also going to save this as a PNG. Now, some of you might ask me, Gil, you're going to take this into a laser cutter. Why don't you try and get a laser, maybe a scalable vector file, or maybe even turn this into a vector? I'm not going to worry about that. I can take care of all of that in Lightburn, and we're going to do that right after this. Okay, so we're in Lightburn here. I thought it was going to come up with a message saying I had to upgrade. It didn't. So let me show you how I import this file in and actually turn it into something that I can laser cut. So let's go into New Worm File. We call this Final. And you see the PNG. I'm going to import that in here. You can see it's a little bit bigger than it needs to be. Now we can do this a number of ways. I'm actually going to go and call it 50. And it gives me something on the screen that I can work with, and that is good for me. So at this point in time, this is just a graphic. If I wanted to do this, it would laser scan the graphic. I'll show you if I do a quick preview on this. Let's put the output in and let's show it. So if we did a quick kind of preview of what it would do right now, let's play this. It's doing it in real time, but you can see it's actually scanning back and forth, and it's actually going to create and burn that logo onto a piece of material. As you can see right here, it just goes straight up, keeps going, all the way until it finishes. We don't want to do that. We actually want to cut this out of material. So we're going to change that, but to change that, first step is we're going to go to Tools, Trace, and we're going to trace this as a vector. So what you'll see now is if I pull that top layer off, you can actually see I have a vector. And this means that if I wanted to cut this out, say place this here, and let's go back to the doesn't like it because the output is. If we do it this way and actually play it, you can actually see that the laser itself is cutting out the shapes, and that's exactly what we want. Now for this project, I'm going to be using red foam. The foam is about 1 mil thick, and I want to make a number of these so that I can plaster them around my micro makerspace in my office, so that when we come around, I'm feeling like it is a science-based area. So see, there you go, you can see. That's a great check. If you ever use Lightburn or before you cut something, I would totally recommend that you use this as a way to work out what the process is until you are sure. And even when you're sure, I still like to check it out. So what I want to do is actually work out what the size of the A4 piece is. So on my foam, I'm actually, they've given the size, and the size is 12 by 9. It's not actually A4 at all. It's 12 by 9. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find out by going into here, what is 12 by 9 inches in millimeters. Thank goodness for the internet. It's given me an answer. I'm going to go here, just convert that up, and I can see here the numbers are 304.8. So let's make a square. I'm going to change the color so it's a different layer. 3.304.8, and the height is 228.6. 228.6, and now I actually have an area. Oh, I've done both of them the same thing, haven't I? Oh, you see, I made a mistake. I should have unlocked it. I need to unlock it because 304.8. So what actually happened just before is because I had locked the constraints of the square, it was trying to work it out, but by hitting this little lock off this way, I'm actually able to do that. And let's select. Yeah, it's interesting. Oh, that's why. So let's grab him. Let's move him across. And I'm going to put him in the corner right here. And what this allows me to do is actually size out the letters on this NASA vector that I've just made. So let's make it as big as we can to fit that N in. In fact, it's not the N, but the A and the S, because they're joined, they're going to be the biggest things that I'm going to need. So let's do it this way. Let's select this and actually go up here and make them single vectors. So I can just pick one at a time. Grab that N, I'm just going to move him over here. I'm going to grab that A and S. I'm going to put him in here. I like to make these things as big as I can, but at the same time also utilize as much space as I can. So I've got the A and S here. Let's move it across a little bit. And while that is, I have sizes for this, it's not going to match. The height might. The height will actually match. So let's work out what that is. That's 169.222. Let's go here. Put 169.222. And let's just check to see if that's going to match. I'll bring this down here. I'm just going to eyeball it. That looks pretty good to me. So I'm just going to quickly grab that A as well. And I'm going to put in same height numbers. 169.222, 169.222, and I now have the largest dimensions that I can use to cut on these 12 by 9 sheets of foam. Right now I'm just going to go prepare my space. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to save this one. I'm going to file, save as. I'm going to come in here. Actually, I'm in the wrong space. I'm going to come back into new NASA worm. I'm going to put in laser letters, and I'm going to make this the master file because I don't like to do more work than once. But now that I've done that, I'm going to get rid of that A and that N, and I'm going to save as, and I'm going to call this AS so I know what it is. Once that's done, I'm going to close that. I'm going to can close it, but I'm actually going to do it a little differently. I'm going to open up that master file. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get rid of the A and the S and put the N on here. Now some people will put it in the middle. I like to put them right in the corner because I like to see whether or not I can actually use this space for something else. Now can I get the A on there as well? No, I'm not going to. So what I'll do is I'll just get rid of that. I'm going to do another save as. I'm going to call this the N. Come back, open up the master file again. Get rid of the A and the S, the N, and the A. So on 3 pieces of material, I'll be able to make this NASA worm sign. On this last one before I save it, I just wanted to just quickly double check to see whether or not that is actually going to do what I need it to do. I'm going to scroll through it. Yep. What's interesting is it's actually telling me it's going to cut that other line out. That line is really there for me to resize, so I'm going to go up here and I'm going to knock that out on the output and come back here and it will cut that piece out. So all I need to do is make sure that I turn out the outputs on the other layers, and I'm ready to transfer this design to the laser cutter, which is our next step. And here we are with the laser cutter. This is the Emblaser, and you can see here I'm actually using a piece of red foam. This is really thin. It's about a mil thick. It's just craft foam that most kids use. Just turning on the laser cutter and just armed it. And what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to run the operation. And I just want to show you this. This is in real time. So this actually works pretty quickly. I've actually got some settings here that will run the laser as quickly as possible. And you can see here, it's now just cutting out the A and the S for the NASA logo. So you can see it's actually a really fast operation, and that's why I love this material. It's really easy to get on hand, and you can see it's just running through. And I love this machine because it sits in my office. I can get creative, work out something, and then just throw it in the machine and let it do its job. So it's pretty sweet. It's a pretty sweet little machine and great for these sort of projects. If you're in the classroom, again, this is perfect because this is the sort of material that you have on hand. And if you don't have it on hand, it's something that's really cheap. You can get it at any craft store. You can even get them in those $2 stores. You're able to get these foam sheets, and it's really kind of fun to work with. So you can see here, we're coming up to the big letters. In this cut, I realized that I was going to use a sheet, and I wanted to try and work out a way of using some of the extra area and not let it go to waste. So you'll see, I'll speed it up just here, that it'll finish off the A and the B, and then you actually have the main parts of my NASA logo cut out. We'll just let it finish in real time. Again, kind of one of the things that I wanted to show is, how long does it actually take to make something like this? And this is pretty quick. And there we are. I just wanted to show you really quickly a way of kind of nesting. I did this by hand. What I did was I took that design, shrunk it down, and placed it around the mat so that I could cut out some extra logos. I didn't want to waste that sort of material. There is software available that allows you to nest. Some of it is free online. I just do this by eye. I just wanted to kind of utilize the material as much as I possibly could. And you can see here, I just sped it up halfway. So this is just double time to show you kind of what I had in mind with this project, which is kind of sweet. You can see they're all fitting in nicely. There's a few more little NASA logos. And I actually, as I refined each design, I found new ways of being able to put the logo in different areas to get the maximum amount of the final product out of the material. And you can see, it's pretty easy. They all fall away. It's kind of really neat when you pull it away. Got caught a little bit on that last S, but I now have my master element cut out, which is really neat. And you can see here some extra logos.
that's it. We were able to create this NASA worm logo. It took about 20 minutes from the beginning to the end. This is a fun project. You don't have to use the NASA worm logo. You can take any logo you like, trace it out in Photoshop, and then send it to a laser cutter using Lightburn and Lightburn's trace functionality, which is amazing because you don't have to then learn about vector graphics. You can get a result really, really quickly out of this process. If you don't have access to a laser cutter, you can print out your design straight from Photoshop, cut them out, place them on the material that you want to cut out, and then using either scissors or a scalpel, gently cut around your design to have that final piece created. The other thing I'm going to do is, if you want a copy of this logo, I have a few extra from working through this process. So if you subscribe to my channel and you put in the bottom that you want one, for the first 5 people who do so, they will get a NASA logo that I cut on the laser cutter using this process. And you know what? That's kind of cool because when you have it in your hand, you actually understand what is achievable. Guys, again, if this is your first time to the channel and you've come this far, hit that subscribe button and that bell icon so you don't miss any other projects. And I'm going to see you really soon with the next project. Stay indoors, stay safe, stay creative. I'll see you real soon.